I love this blue so much that now my hair is blue. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, hello. So in the last video I showed mounting up the jig to the car. Kind of figured this was going to happen, but the frame rail is a little lifted on this side and the bolt holes don't exactly line up perfectly for obvious reasons. So today I'm going to work on getting that to line up. And you can see on the firewall where it's like folded in, like right here. So that would kind of explain where that distance has been lost. It's all crunched in here and it's folded here. This is gonna be kind of crazy, but I'm excited to do this. This whole firewall and the shock tower needs to come off. So it's gonna be like no car left. But I'm excited to see it, so I guess let's just start knocking it out. We got the shock tower. Oh my goodness. Crazy. Looks like I missed a little sliver right here. Something I just picked up is this hydraulic press. So what I'm gonna do is put the end on one side of the frame rail, and then this side we'll just press against here. We'll know how far it needs to go based on how the holes line up here with the subframe. So with the hydraulic press spread enough here, we can finally see the bolt holes down here. They're at the correct width now, but unfortunately it looks like the frame rail on the car has shifted backwards. If you see, the subframe is in front. So now I'm looking at the frame rail here, and this doesn't look too bad overall, but then I get to here and it's crunched. Most likely this crunch right here is where most of the distance is lost in the frame rail, because when you crumple something it makes it shorter. And fun fact, this section of frame rail from here to here is only on 240SX models. The 180SX, which are sold in Japan, never even came with this section from the factory. This is just like not even there. It just ends here and starts here, which I find really strange. It's also funny because the 240s that have this are just so thin. Like, this is the thinnest piece of the frame rail. It's significantly thinner than the rest of the frame rail as well. So what I'm thinking is I'm just gonna cut this right here and make a new one, because I mean, for as thin as this frame rail is to begin with, like it can't be doing much. So when I make a new one, I'll be sure to use thicker metal than this, and I think overall that'll be stronger than what it was before. Alright, not too shabby.
That's actually insane.
What do you think of my ride, bro?
What'd you do to it?
Oh, we're just on the stage 100 weight reduction. So this is Seth. He's an old friend.
Yo.
He came to help me do some work on her. So yeah, let's get to it. All right, so we just got this piece released and took off the tension rod bracket. The only piece that's holding the frame rail to the car is literally right here. If it still doesn't line up, then we'll have to cut this piece off as well. And it still doesn't line up. So we're gonna have to cut it off the front. When I originally made this lower radiator support, I reinforced the inside with some angle iron and stuff. But I never thought I'd have to cut it apart again, so I guess we'll just make another one when this is all over. Because on the stock ones, like Stevie's car here, if you try and jack it up from here, like these will literally just like fold in half, and then your hood won't sit right. It's kind of sad how thin it is from the factory.
So Mike was talking about how he wanted to make it out to next week's drift event, so this is what he's driving.
Alright, so we've got the frame rail back on the car, loosely, not like tightened down or anything, but on the alignment marks in the back here, the frame rail is actually lining up now, so that's good. But now we need to get the correct measurement in the front. So I was thinking of what would be the best way to really make sure this frame rail is in the correct spot in the front, and I realized that Stevie's car has a stock bash bar on it that is undamaged, so he said we could use it. So we're going to take off the bash bar here and we're going to mount it to the frame rails there. Yeah, there you go. Alright, we got the bash bar on here. Frame rail is bolted up to the subframe where it needs to be. I'm not too confident that this is in the correct location over here. So before we make any official welds or anything regarding the frame, what I want to do is line up the new Firewall onto here, comparing that frame rail to this frame rail. So what that means is we got to cut off this Firewall and that shock tower. With the other parts.
Dang, that looks so bald, bare.
What do you think, Stevie?
It's coming together like a piece of pizza.
Well, now I need to figure out which spot welds I still need to drill out here so that I can get all of this extra stuff removed and then it can have a clean mating surface. It's crazy to see how much like junk is stored inside these frame rails. This one especially. Look at all this. Nasty. At this point, I think the next thing I need to do is trim the trans tunnel back. Looks like it's not going to sit nicely because of this trans mount bump right here. That's all right, we'll just trim it back probably about right here. We can always trim more, so I'm going to leave a little bit extra on the first cut. All right, let's try this out now. So with that outline, we can see how much of an overlap we have, which in this case is a little bit too much. So I'm going to trim back some of the trans tunnel here on the car, and also some of the parts on the trans tunnel as well. Because ideally what we want is for the new trans tunnel to sit flush on the car itself. Oh yeah, that's fitting a lot better. I'm going to draw onto the new trans tunnel here, and then I'll take it off and see how much of a gap we have. I'm looking for about an inch of overlap so I can weld the top and the bottom seam. So let's see how it is. Alright, so here's our line here. Wow, that is actually pretty on point. I'm really happy with that line that we made. So I think I'm just going to trim this back a little bit right here, this little corner that sticks out. But other than that, that is perfect. Perfect, we got this trimmed up, and this is what the car looks like now. But there's one piece that I'm missing for the car that I need here before I start putting parts on. Any guesses? So I definitely needed to bring the roof to Stevie's house, and if you guys remember the shell that I picked up, it actually has a roof on it, slick top, no sunroof, so we're gonna cut that off. I wonder if this will fit on top of the Integra. Let's find out. Thanks for your help, Ethan.
Dude, anytime.
This is gonna be a fun drive.
Dude, it's actually secure.
Right? A lot of people were asking me why I didn't shell swap to this shell initially, so I figured I'd show you. So as you can see, the firewall here is crunched in all the way up to here. The frame rail is like crunched and beat up. The rocker panel here is like pushed in. The whole door jamb is pushed in. Same with here. This whole corner was just crunched in. Well, as you guys know, I cannot say that this is the sketchiest thing I've done, but it's definitely up there. But you know what? We put 3 ratchet straps on there. I'd say that's more than enough. We made it. One of these strap holes looks like it was like meant to be, like right here on the Integra. There's a tiny little hole. It's perfect. This Integra has proved itself once again that it can be a work truck. And there's no damage on the car either. So I'd call that a great success. I really like this car. And if you're liking this video, feel free to drop a like. It really does go a long way. It helps the channel a lot. So I appreciate all you guys for sticking around. So lately, Fran's 240 has been like randomly dying out on her when she's driving around. It's kind of an issue, you know, especially if you're like making a left turn and then randomly your car turns off. Not good. So today we're gonna look into that. So at first I was suspecting that there was like a vacuum leak or something. After doing a visual test, I didn't really notice anything that looked obvious. So then I started moving on to looking around at the wiring. And I came across this. And this is a wire that has been twisted together and taped. And there's probably two more under this piece of tape as well, without solder. These two wires communicate with the engine computer, and they tell the computer how much air is entering the engine. That way it can calculate the air-fuel mixture and let the car run and idle and all that kind of stuff. So with these being loosely twisted together, I'm thinking that's probably the culprit. So we've got a nice bead of solder on there, and I've already installed the heat shrink. So you just slide the heat shrink over the solder. Alright, so now I'm gonna just do the other two. I'm very happy that Fran got this car off of like a granny, but the engine swap that she picked up, we got used off of someone, and we've been tracing a lot of issues that we found along the way, but that's okay because you take those issues and you learn from them. Alright, that looks much better. I can't believe there was one piece of tape holding all three of those wires together. That is so sketchy. Thank God those wires didn't touch. It would have popped the ECU or something. Fran ordered this gauge mount, and we don't want to mount it on the dash because this is kind of like ugly. So we're thinking we're going to try and put it in the glove box. But that's going to take some trimming, and we're just going to put the gauges in the pod today. That way they're not just dangling around on the floor. But I'm gonna start thinking about how I'm going to mount this in the glove box for next time. That'll be fun. So for now, this is our temporary solution.
It looks good. Much more cleaned up already.
Yeah, definitely way better than just dangling around on the floor. So another thing that doesn't work on her car is the tachometer, and that just like randomly stopped working. With the way that the engine harness was looking, I'm already assuming that it has something to do with that harness. Okay, so I've unplugged the cluster connection and have the ECU exposed. And I also have the ECU pinout right here on my phone. So the first thing I like to do is a visual inspection. So I'm just looking at the wires here, seeing if there's anything obvious going on. So it turns out one of the pins on the ECU were loose. When I was testing it, I pushed in the pin to like back probe it, and then it started working. So, free fix. Yay, it didn't die. Usually it would die right there, right after it pulled, and it didn't. So that's good. And also I can actually read the gauges now that they're right here. Even just for now. It's a lot better than rolling around on the floor.